So kind of we're ready to go, are we? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's Ordinary Council meeting. Firstly, Council acknowledges the traditional owners of these lands, waters and skies, the Wadawurrung people. We acknowledge and respect their continuing connections to their lands, water, skies, culture, and the contribution they make to the life and spirit of our community. We pay respect to their past and present elders and emerging leaders, and extend this respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. Thank you. Mr. CEO, do we have any apology for tonight's meeting?
No, Mr. Chair.
No, thank you. Item 3, pecuniary interest and conflict of interest disclosures. Councillors, do we have any conflicts of interest tonight? No, thank you. Officers, Mr. CEO?
No conflicts, Mr.
No conflicts, thank you. Item 4, leave of absence of councillors. We have none, but welcome back, Councillor Hewitt, from your leave of absence. Lovely to have you home again. Item 5, public question time. 5.1, public question status update. No public questions are outstanding. Public questions. Yes, we have 4 public questions. The first question is from David Kenwood. David, would you like to speak? Yep. Just press the button there.
Thanks, councillors. As a ratepayer who's about to see his rates rise tonight and his waste charges rise and probably his property values rise, I asked the following question. Following the third wave of contractor devastation of the ancient mooners and other trees along the once pleasant avenue in Victoria Park, at the behest of council, the CEO, work cover pin notice, can the mayor and councillors describe the promised 440,000 restoration and replanting program, including where it will take place, when and how the plantings will be protected? And I ask this question because I'm part of the group that has secured the Queen's Jubilee grant for additional planting. So we really need to know where we stand given the latest developments in the park.
Thank you, David. And again, as you're well aware, that grant was also sponsored by council as well, and it's a great result for the community. Response to your question, subject to decision tonight to approve the budget allocation, councillors will be meeting next week to start planning for the revegetation works in Victoria Park. Once a plan has been developed, council will share it with the community. So we're meeting next week.
You're meeting next week?
Yes.
Okay.
To go talk about exactly what you've asked.
Where, when and how?
Exactly. We will let you know.
Any questions, council?
That's not how it works. Thank you, David.
Thanks, David. Public question.
Just interject. Sorry. I think back just before COVID, we decide that would allow a right of reply to the question. And we are going to allow those things now.
Sorry. And David Kenwood did actually ask.
We're going to allow that. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
But not for councillors. It's the public's question. Thank you. Public question 2 from the QCA. David, you happy? Yep. The question, it is noted that council common seal providing financial delegation to the QRR amenities block contract, estimated project cost in the order of 1.2 million that may have exceeded delegatory financial powers, was provided after works began May 27, 2022. Importantly, some clarification and detail is needed when council states council has developed a project management framework in 2021 and that any proposed project is assessed against this framework before it is included in the council's financial budget, evident in CEO reply to councillor question and budget submission response. However, the council response given at the audit committee is that the target implementation date for a project management system is December 31, 2023. Can the apparent contradiction in the two statements be clarified in order to ensure community trust in delivery of council projects and with the new budget initiatives are comprehensively assessed? Response, David, there is a difference between a framework and a system. The framework sets out steps and the project management principles, and as stated by the council framework is in place. A project management system is the administration tool for the framework. The system is things like templates, procedures, and processes, or in a best case scenario, a project management system software. The response to the audit committee acknowledges that while we have paper-based templates and processes in place, we do not have the project management system software. The implementation of a project management system software is a component of the current ICT transformation project and hence will not be in place until December 2023. All the projects in this year's budget were assessed under the process set out in step 1 of the project management framework. A project initiation document was prepared for each project and presented to council in preparation for the draft budget. Thanks, David. If you need any more clarification, we can get some more. Okay. Thank you. Public question 3 from Alan K. Webb. Construction is proceeding at the boat ramp for installation of a 2.4 metre by 1.2 metre electronic sign, approximately 3 metres in height, adjoining the ramp. According to Better Boating Victoria, the sign is to display safety messaging for ramp users operating, we believe, 24/7 all year with coloured variable messages. Such VMS signage has been used in recent years on Swan Island at the western entrance to the Cup, which is visible to not only ramp users, but also the fleet of vessels adjoining the QCYC, capturing a larger number of vessels than the current proposal. This proposition has been raised with Better Boating Victoria in the last few days. There has been no community consultation nor discussion involving the PRG until recent time after the work had commenced. The location is surrounded by a zoned residential area with heritage overlays and is a visible component of the historic township. When council endorsed the proposed installation, which is considered exempt from requiring a planning permit, was any consideration given to other options for locations such as Swan Island, which would be less intrusive on the general streetscape? And was council consulted at all prior to the decision to proceed assessment by the fisheries officers and MSV? Response, when works are exempt from requiring a planning permit, the planning authority, which is us, the council, do not endorse or see the proposed works because there is no requirement or mechanism to give permission for the works to proceed. Thank you, Alan, for your question. Public question number 4 from Graham Frankpit. We note the response in tonight's council agenda to our submission. This response indicates that the toilet strategy does not identify the provision of a toilet at the playground opposite Lock Street. However, we can see that the toilet strategy does clearly support, which is on page 28, and the provision in year 9 to 2024, highlighted on page 53. We appreciate once again your consideration of our proposal we submitted on behalf of the general community, both for the residents of Point Lonsdale and the many visitors. We would greatly appreciate a response to the issues we raise above, and once again, ask for consideration in the 2022-2023 budget process. I'll hand this one over to the CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, Mr. Frankpit is correct. The 2015 to 2025 Queenscliff
public toilet strategy, updated and endorsed by Council in 2018, does include a proposal for a single cubicle disability accessible unisex toilet at the northern end of Point Lonsdale Beach opposite Lock Street. I apologise that the response to the submission included this was incorrect. Council officers will change the response to the submission in the following manner. So we will include the comment that works currently included in the 2022-23 budget are in line with the toilet strategy of the borough, and any new works will follow based on future community consultation and availability of resources. A public toilet at the northern end of Point Lonsdale Beach opposite Lock Street is identified in the 2015 to 2025 Queenscliff Public Toilet Strategy as a proposed capital works project and nominated for construction in year 9 or 2024. Council will undertake a review of the current toilet strategy in response to this submission and other inquiries Council has received on other aspects of the current strategy in preparation for the 2023-24 budget process.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. That finishes the public questions. Councillors, item 6, the confirmation of council minutes. Councillors, there is a recommendation there. Councillor Tolhurst.
I'll move it, but with some changes to item 16.1, appointment of council portfolios and delegates. There is an error there. We have would rather need to rectify and have Councillor Hewitt identified as holding the environment portfolio and Councillor Evans as holding the local economy portfolio. Currently, they're the other way around.
Thank you. That was just that one. Yep, thank you. Can I get someone second that with that alteration? Second, Councillor Grigger. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. So moved. Item 6.2, Audit and Risk Committee meeting minutes. The recommendation that the minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting held on 6th of June 2022 as distributed be confirmed as an accurate record. Does someone move that one? Yep, Councillor Tolhurst was present. I will second that. I was present at that meeting. All those in favour? Thank you. So moved. Thank you. Item 7, record of informal meetings of councillors. The recommendation that the record of informal meetings of councillors as presented in adjunct to item 7 be noted. You're moving that, Councillor Grigger? Oh, sorry, Councillor Grout.
Councillor Grout's moving.
Yep, someone to second that. Councillor Tolhurst, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 8, notice of motion. 8.1, notice of motion status update. There are no motions on notice outstanding. 8.2, motion on notice. No motions on notice were received. 9, petitions and letters. We have received none. Item 10 is the functions attended. Councillors and members of the gallery, there is a long list of those functions attended by councillors and the CEO. Can I get someone to move that?
I'll move with some changes.
Yep.
I also attended the Queenscliff Historical Museum Uruk Truth Telling Seminar with Councillor Grout on the 27th of May 2022.
Thank you. Can I also ask Councillor Tolhurst to accept that also one other change in that the 16th of June, the Geelong Heritage Centre Collection Advisory Committee meeting, myself, that event was actually cancelled at late notice. So I need to take that out. Yes, that meeting didn't go ahead. Thank you, Jen. Yep. Okay. Thank you. So that's moved by Councillor Tolhurst. Can I get someone to second that with the changes? Moved by second by Councillor Grout. No further changes. Can someone move? Sorry, we'll just put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 11 is the Chief Executive Officer, Mr. CEO.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. I don't want to say too much except to, again, praise Matt Gibbs for his award at the recent LG Pro conference for the Young Achiever of the Year 2022. And it's a great reflection on his commitment to his community, but also his commitment to work. And he's now doing the rounds, going around Victoria and speaking to other councils, and he's become a bit of a star in his quiet little way. The other item to bring your attention to is the minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee, which was held last month and included as an appendix, earlier this month, and included as an appendix here. Otherwise, I'm happy to take questions, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Do we have any questions? I might get someone to move in a second at first. Moved by Councillor Grigor, seconded by Councillor Hewitt. Any questions or comments with regard to the CEO report? No, Councillor Grant.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a couple of comments, and I think I'm going to say on behalf of the council, we acknowledge the recognition that Matt gives in achieving the Young Achiever of the Year award. So that's a fabulous reflection of the work that he's done on the website and other communication strategies in the borough. So well done to him. And then I do want to make a statement about Victoria Park, because I'm mortified to witness the loss of trees and canopy in Victoria Park. And I acknowledge that we in the borough have not been effective custodians of the surviving moonahs in this part of our coast. Enabling moonahs to grow and camping appear to be activities that need some separation. And we as a council are going to work towards doing that.
Thanks, Councillor Grant. Any other, Councillor Hewitt?
Also following on, just want to make a statement about Victoria Park. The intention behind the motion that we put in March this year, particularly in response to the community outcry about the works that were being undertaken at Victoria Park as a result of the damage from the recent storms. The intention was to try and preserve the significant and historic vegetation and tree canopy that were damaged, not just for residents and ratepayers, but for the campers and the extensive bird life. The motion in particular was raised to give us time to put in place a long-term strategy for the space to protect its environmental values and ensure that the appropriate use of the space into the future. Subsequently, many passionate community members worked together with council in relation to securing the Queen's Jubilee Fund amount, as David mentioned earlier, which has been really terrific. And they also facilitated a very well-attended picnic in the park in May, which was also a terrific initiative and very informative. Unfortunately, as noted in the CEO report, WorkSafe's now involved and significant work has been undertaken to remove and reduce the trees. As mentioned by my fellow councillor, the extent of the work is devastating, and it was not and has never been the desired outcome for the site for anyone. And I just want to say that I'm glad that emphasis has been given to fast tracking the establishment of the replanting program, and I look forward to working with council officers and my fellow councillors in relation to putting that in place ASAP.
Thank you, Councillor Hewitt. Any other comments in regard to the CEO's report? No, thank you. We have that moved and seconded. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 12, health and wellbeing. There's no report to consider. 13, environment, no report to consider. And 14, local economy, no report to consider. Item 15, heritage planning and infrastructure, 15.1. Mr. CEO, you're giving the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really would just put the report on the table and happy to take questions from councillors.
Yeah. Okay. What I might do is just get someone to move that the planning activity report be received. Councillor Grant. Move Councillor Grant. Can we get someone to second that?
Can I make that with one adjustment?
Sorry.
And the adjustment will be to permit 2022/020, which is on page 15 or 49, and we just need to correct the date. So that's 16 Ocean Road, Point Lonsdale. We need to correct the date of the date received for that permit. So it currently says 11/03/2020. It was received on 11/03/2022.
Okay. Thank you, councillor Grant.
So I'll move that.
Move that with that change. Yeah, is a second for that one. Thank you. All those in favour that we receive the report? So moved. Thank you.
And can I further move that council receive a briefing on the following applications because of community interest? This is yeah, 2022 059, which is 2026 Hesse Street, Queenscliff. It's on page 19 and 49.
Thank you. Did you say briefings or was it just the one?
A briefing, yeah.
It's just the one request, councillor Grant?
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you. So move that that briefing. Do we need to move that? I don't think we do.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's move that we receive a briefing by councillor Grout. Someone to second that. Councillor Hewitt. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Thank you, councillor Grout. Item 16 is governance and finance. 16.1 community satisfaction survey results. I'll hand over to our communications coordinator, Connor Parker. Thank you, Connor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So as I do every time, I'm always excited to present with you with a 98-page appendix, which is our annual community satisfaction survey for 2022. It is quite a long report. I do not propose to go through it in substantial detail, but I will just touch on a couple of things that we've learned for this year. So as a bit of background, this is a survey we take every year. Most councils in Victoria take it every year. It's administered by the Victorian government and an independent research company who conducts 400 phone calls. Well, they conduct more than 400 phone calls, but they speak to 400 residents, take that data down randomly and ask them a range of questions about how we've performed throughout the year. They'll ask us questions about our overall performance and also our performance on individual service areas like aged care or planning. So what we've learned this year is good news from a reputational perspective. We've had pretty much across the board increases in community sentiment towards council's performance, both overall and in individual performance areas. Particularly on those overall ones, the community engagement metrics seem to have gone up substantially, and that continues a trend from 2019. So leading into 2019, we had fairly consistent declines, and in 2019, we've reversed that and that's gone back up. I do want to particularly acknowledge our customer service team who recorded a 6-point increase, and it's an equal record high for them. And we all know that our customer service team have one of the most challenging jobs in council. They're very busy all the time. They deal with a lot of questions and a lot of people, but they've certainly had that hard work reflected in the work that they've done here. In terms of individual service areas, if you go through onto the 4th page of my report, I've pulled out some of the ones which are substantially above statewide averages. So all of our individual service areas, we've either met statewide average or we've exceeded it, which is fantastic news. But particularly for our aged care services, sealed local roads, overall council direction and customer service, we're exceeding that statewide average by 10 points or more, which is a substantial amount, which is always good to know. No metrics recorded a fall in performance of 3 points or more. So sometimes we'll see some go up and others go down, but this year it was largely pretty stable. Now, certainly we can learn things from decreases in performance, but we can also learn things from increases in performance. What have we changed? What have we done that perhaps has led to those benefits? And how can we cement those changes and continue to improve on them? And I think there are certainly two things we can learn because we've had 3 years, I think, of these substantial increases. And the two things we've learned there are that perceptions of council's engagement and responsiveness to the community has the largest impact on our overall performance. So in the 3 years leading up to 2019, the main overall metric that was falling was our perception of the way we engage community and make decisions on behalf of our community, and that led to an overall fall in performance. Since then, those metrics have risen the most to the point where they're now at an equal record high, and that has since buoyed our performance. Overall, this means that community sentiment around how we represent them, how we talk to them, drives their performance and the expectations of us overall. One important thing to think about. It also touches on the fact that if you look through the report, you can see that there are demographic breakdowns around how different groups in our community feel about our performance. And while all of those demographic groups overall in the last 3 years have felt we're doing better than we were in 2019, two particular groups that's improved more than others. And those two groups are women and young people. Well, and young people, I mean people under the age of 65. But I'll split those into those two groups who have believed that we have improved at a much greater rate. There may be a couple of reasons for this. Firstly, on those community engagement metrics, we've made a more substantial effort to increase accessibility of community engagement to people who have childcare responsibilities, have work responsibilities, by ensuring that we use things. We offer options like surveys or webinars so that they can take them from home or in their own time. And we see an increase in engagement when we do those things, particularly from those groups of people who may not be able to attend an event in person during the day. We've also displayed an increased focus on priorities that we know those groups tend to share. So when we've done broad-based engagement, asking people for priorities, younger people and women tend to be more likely to say that they care about environmental projects and particularly climate change. Council's increased focus on those two areas probably shows those sections of the community that we share their priorities a little bit more. So while all demographic groups believe we've done a bit better, I think it's certainly we've seen a bit of a benefit from ensuring that we remain engaged and accessible. And I think the things to learn here are that a focus on community engagement is really important for overall community perceptions of how we perform, and also ensuring that that engagement is accessible to everyone, offers a range of ways for people to get involved, and is responsive to all parts of our community, clearly has benefited us already and is something we can continue to build on going forward. So there's plenty in the report. There are a lot of insights, both for us and our community. So certainly this is available as part of the minutes on the website if members of our community want to read it. I won't propose to go into them anymore. The recommendation is at the bottom of the first page of the report there to note the results of the survey and thank those members of our community who took the time to share their feedback. It does take about 10 minutes to respond to a call. So we certainly do appreciate members of the public who do take the time to go through the large number of questions and share their feedback with us. I'm happy to take any questions.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll get someone to move that we note the results of the 2022 Community Satisfaction Survey. We've moved, Councillor Tolhurst.
Question?
And yep, and second, Councillor Hewitt. Councillor Tolhurst, you got a question or a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Congratulations, Connor, and to you and the team. These are brilliant results, and I look forward to seeing how, I know they don't have specific activities related to them, but noting how we'll use them to continue our service offering to the community. We've discussed this before, so there's nothing should come as a surprise tonight, but the cost of the survey for those in the gallery?
Is about, it's in the report, but I can pull it up. It's about $15,700 per annum. Have a bit of a quick, see if I can find it briefly here. I can give you an exact figure, $15,745 inclusive of GST.
Thank you very much. And the capacity to add questions in future years is something we can do to be responsive to various things that might affect our community specifically.
You know, this is such a great question that I actually had a conversation with JWS today. What a surprise. But I did have a discussion with them about how, because I know the councillors and Councillor Tolhurst, you've raised this before, can we add additional demographic questions such as asking people if they have a disability and then measuring those responses to see whether those groups feel we perform better or worse in certain areas. So I had a bit of a discussion about how that might be implemented. There are a couple of challenges with doing it. Largely what it does is that it requires them to alter not just one question, but the whole report. So for example, if we were to ask people, what's your favourite food? They report on that question once and then they move on with the report. If we ask for a demographic question, every time they then talk about aged care, they have to add a line for how that group has performed. So it has substantial impacts on the report as a whole, which could be done but is likely to cost a lot more than one custom question. The other discussion we had was about sample sizes. So I know I had a bit of a nerd out in my presentation and spoke to you about margins of error. And basically what that means is we have 400 responses. And when we cut that into small demographic groups where we've only got a small number of responses, like 20 to 30 people, the margin of error becomes quite high. So in Australia, it's estimated that about 1 in 6 people has a disability, so 18%. If we transpose that onto the borough's results, and we expect that many respondents, we're probably going to end up with a margin of error about 12 to 15 points. What that means is if we get a response, a result that says people with a disability felt that we performed 7 points better on infrastructure compared to everyone else, it's not quite large enough for us to know whether that's data noise or an actual response. So overall, it's a bit challenging because the nature of the survey means that the only way to get that would be to add more responses, make more calls, which is substantially more expensive. I think if we are looking to ask smaller groups of people, so people with disabilities, Indigenous people, LGBTI people, for example, for feedback on council's performance, we may be better served by simply doing our own survey and saying, hey, we are interested in hearing from people with a disability how you feel about ABC. You can jump online and submit anything you want, and getting some qualitative feedback rather than trying to put it in what is a quantitative survey, and perhaps spending a lot of money and still ending up with something that has a bit of data noise. So it's a really good question, and unfortunately not quite, I think, the answer we were all hoping for. But I think we can certainly, if we are interested in that information, we can certainly have a discussion about how we can collect that information for the community in other ways.
Thanks, Connor. Councillor Hewitt?
Thanks. And yeah, I'd love to reiterate what Councillor Thomas said. Well done. Continued improvement in so many areas, and such a significant uptrend. And so I think that's really reflective. We've had some hard years with COVID, and we're tracking it with 7% staffing at one point or another, and to still be able to maintain those numbers, it is really terrific. I noted that one of the sections said that the individual service area that has the strongest influence on the overall performance rating based on regression analysis is decisions made in the interest of the community. I think this ties in with what you were talking about, not only engaging with the community about upcoming decisions, but also reflecting on the why behind decisions that have been made, so that everyone is on the same page, because obviously we're sitting here making decisions in the way that we hope is in the best interest of the community. So it'd be good if we can look for ways to further explain that. And I think, so the question I've got is really, when you've got this community satisfaction survey, which provides the analysis, what is the step that council officers take after this? How do you transpose it into actions and things that will be done at an operational level to try and continue on the good work that some of the levels have done in other areas, or how do you transfer it into?
It's a great question. Much as councillors had to suffer through my presentation on this a couple of weeks ago, I also sit down all our council officers at an all staff meeting and take them through these results. I'll explain what we've learned, and then also go through those program area by program area results. So I mentioned that we have overall results, but we also have specific ones about aged care and local laws and town planning, which in many cases apply to individual aspects of the work our officers do. So what we'll do is at the all-staff meeting, we'll go through all those detailed results. We'll highlight areas where there's been movement, and we'll ask staff to think about any changes they've made in the last year, or if it's a sustained trend over the last few years that might have led to that result. So, for example, if our planning team has substantially changed the way they've done something in planning, and that's resulted in improvement, we'll ask them to think about whether they think those two things are connected and whether that's something that they can learn and improve on. So an example has been, certainly in the communications sector, we found that the first year we started doing more digital communications, we saw a substantial rise. And throughout the report, we can also see our residents saying that they want to see more digital communications from council. So we took that as an opportunity to go, great, this is something that's working well. How can we ensure that we solidify those? These are no longer tests. We know they're well responded to. How can we make them part of our standard practice? And we ask staff to do that in detail. I also make myself available to individual staff and program areas if they want to go through those results in detail, given it's a fairly long report, and make sure they understand what those results are. So every year we do take these results to other officers and we do encourage them to use them to reflect on the year they've had and look at the results and see whether there are any changes they should make in response to good or poor results that can improve their work.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions in regard to the report? No, thank you, Connor.
Thank you very much.
Councillors, we do have a mover and a second. All those in favour? Thank you. Councillors, item 16.2, nomination of G21 pillar appointments. Mr. CEO.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. As noted in the report, G21 have been undertaking significant review of its operations over the last couple of years. And one major part of that review is to have a look at the function of the pillars and how they might streamline those and align those more closely with the board's direction. In doing that, the current pillar structure will be changed and amended to the pillar structure that's set out in the report. And so as a council, we've been invited to nominate people and persons to each of the new pillars and to that advisory group. So hence the report and the chance for council to make those nominations.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Tallhurst. That comes under your portfolio.
It does indeed.
Yep.
So I will move it and nominate that Councillor Grigau will be the councillor for the health, wellbeing, sport and recreation pillar. That me, Councillor Tallhurst, will be the councillor for the cultural and economic development pillar. The Councillor Hewitt will be the councillor for the sustainability pillar, and that Councillor Grout will be the councillor for the managing growth advisory group. And we also instruct the CEO to nominate these councillors for each pillar of the G21.
Nominate officers.
Officers.
So
pardon
that's
me.
it. Yeah. Thank you. I think that's moved by Councillor Tallhurst, seconded by Councillor Grout. Any further discussion, councillors? No, if not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. So moved. Thank you, Mr. CEO. Item 16.3, budget 2022-23 and financial plan 2022-23 to 2031-32. I'll ask our manager finance and corporate services, Gihan, to come to. Thank you, Gihan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to formally adopt 2022-23 budget and the financial plan for next 10 years. At the council meeting held in April, council resolved to give public notice that it had prepared the budget and the draft financial plan, and further resolved to exhibit the document for submission from the community. At the close of that community submission period, we received 9 public submissions. All 9 submissions were considered by council at the assembly held on 1st June 2022. During that process, council identified 18 new initiatives, ideas across all those submissions received, and council has prioritized and considered those new initiatives as summarized in Appendix 5. Based on the public submission received and additional information received, council has made some changes to the draft budget. Those amendments are summarized in page 36 and 37 of the agenda. There has been some minor changes to the advertised rate in the dollar values due to the changes in the final valuation data that we received from the Valuer General. But still, the borough has the lowest rate in the dollar in the G21 region. The most significant changes are the deferment of the Royal Park Sport Facility design and planning work to the following financial year, and the inclusion of a new budget item for the implementation of a tree management system. Those are the two significant changes that we have incorporated in the final budget. So after incorporating all those changes, we are looking at a balanced budget of 16.2 million, operating budget of 12.6 million, and the capital work program of 3.6 million. Again, no new loans, and council will continue to have a debt-free balance sheet. The budget meets all financial sustainability indicators that we have identified in our council plan, except for the underlying result. So if you look at our financial plan, the council is projecting an average 204,000 deficit for each year for next 10-year planning horizon. The projected deficit is average, the average deficit represent approximately 14% of our asset renewal requirements based on the projected depreciation. So if I put in another way, it is projected that the council will be able to manage closer to 86% of our asset renewal requirement using council's fund. So then we may need to depend on external funding closer to 14% of our asset renewal requirement. So that's what the underlying deficit that represent. And again, the council's experience is that we have been able to secure external grant funding in the past for us to manage significant asset renewal projects. So in conclusion, the council officers have prepared, under the guidance of council, a financially responsible budget for 22-23, which enable council to maintain existing service standard and the infrastructure while delivering those identified priority projects in the budget. For these reasons, councillors officers recommend that the council adopts the 22-23 budget and the financial plan for 22-23 to 2031-32. The recommendation before you is set out on page 33 and 34 of that.
Thank you very much, Gihan. Councillors, do we have someone move the recommendation? Councillor Tolhurst?
I'd like to move an amended motion.
It's not
Oh,
just a motion.
just the motion.
Yep. Okay.
And note that 9 submissions were received and considered in relation to the 2022-23 draft budget and draft financial plan. Pardon me, I have a question on process to my fellow councillors. Am I required to read out everything on my amendment?
No, just
Just a variation.
Just part 2.
there's a change. Yeah.
The change to the motion rather than amendment.
Thank you, colleagues. So we note the council's responses to submissions provided in Appendix 5 and ask officers to update and change to the response to submit a 6 to reflect the proposed capital works project identified in the Queenscliff Public Toilet Strategy 2015 to 2025.
Thank you very much.
I would also just like to acknowledge the immense amount of work Gihan and his team have done on this budget. I know it's been done with immense rigour and that it's been a very open process for the public. My understanding is that we're one of a few, if not the only council that has such an open process with the public. So thank you for that. And thank you for being adaptable and responsive to things that have presented themselves this year, including responding to some challenges posed by the Victoria Park issue. And I do look forward to working with the community on getting that to where it needs to be, and making it or allowing it to continue being a sacred and special place that it is. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tolhurst. Can I have someone second the motion, please? Councillor Grau?
Yeah, and I'm happy to endorse the comments that Councillor Tolhurst has just made. Yes, great work.
Yeah. Excellent, thank you. Any questions or further comments, councillors? Sorry, Councillor Yot.
Yeah, thanks, Gihan and team. Always terrific budget, very thorough, and great engagement with councillors. I just had a question, and we've got the new project management framework, and we've been privy to the project initiation templates completed for each of the new projects, which I think it's been really valuable to have that in place and to also see that as part of the decision-making process. So thanks for providing that as part of the our ability to make the analysis on the new projects. One of the concerns or, highlights in the report, and it's been in previous ones, is about council receiving or being responsible for ongoing maintenance of assets that aren't necessarily initiated by council but are by other limbs of government. And I think we all just need to be cognizant of it when we approve projects, that there will be ongoing costs and that will and could jeopardise our financial sustainability into the future. And just remind me, in those project initiation templates, we do have a section in there for the ongoing maintenance costs of projects. Yeah, that's what I thought. So I think that is, continues really important that we see those and have that visibility in just making decisions to proceed. And I thank you for all your work on that, because that's been really important. And I think it's a really good ability for us to safeguard against approving things in the future that may be out of our financial depth. So thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Councillor Hewitt. Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Grigel?
I'm just checking with the budget, how flexible we are with the upcoming sort of seeing storm clouds in financial risks with interest rate rises and hardships for our ratepayers. Are we able enough to sort of adjust the budget to give sort of some help to any ratepayers that are finding hardships with paying their rates if we have an impending recession?
Do you want me to take that? Or?
Yeah.
No, I'm happy if you want to go. Through you, Mr. Mayor, we do have a policy in place that gives people the opportunity to apply for rate relief and especially in terms of hardship. And that policy is now being, I guess, endorsed in a way through the BoQ report. We happen to be in front of the BoQ recommendations that came out a couple of weeks ago, and we've actually made the policy more responsive to people who may find themselves in hardship. So we can do that. If there's a more significant change required, as you know, we do quarterly reporting to council, and so through that process we can review anything the council might want to put to us. Are you comfortable with that? Okay. Yep.
Thank you. Mr. CEO, again, another additional point to add, during our COVID challenge period, what we experienced in terms of our rates, hardships. So we experienced close to 25,000 additional outstanding value in our rates. So it was only 25,000 average. So that is something we could manage within our general reserve and providing some relief to the rate payer. So it was not that significant. So even during that period.
Good. Thank you very much, Guy. Any further questions, councillors? If not, so that's moved and second. All those in favour? Thank you. Well done, and well done again, Gihan. Thank you. Councillors, item 17, authorisation and signing and sealing of documents. 17.1, the Queenscliff Recreation Reserve Amenities Block Construction Contract 2021-19. And the recommendation, council note the use of the council seal. Can I get someone to move that? Councillor Grigel, thank you. Someone to second that? Councillor Grout, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 18, questions without notice. 18.1, questions without notice status update. There are no questions without notice outstanding. Item 18.2, councillors, do we have any questions without notice? Councillor Grigel?
Just to the CEO, back in January of 2021, there was promise made to community, actually the PCLA and their annual general meeting that council sort of promised that we were not going to take on any further new projects until we completed our current projects. So we're going to fulfil that promise.
Through Mr. Mayor, we would have fulfilled that promise, but unfortunately we've included the new Hodgson Street public amenity in the current budget. So we will be breaking that promise this year, unfortunately. But most of the other new work that we're doing and that we're proposing to do is actually planning work. So it's not actually undertaking the projects, it's doing that important work that we need to do in preparation to do the project. The other project that we've picked up this year is the Edgewater drainage response, and that's a reactive project, and I think that's reasonable that we take that on. It's a project of a scale that is manageable, but it's also going to help the local residents there. So I wish we'd kept that promise, but unfortunately, that's politics.
Is that just would it be a project if it's required that you're replacing an asset that was taken away from the community?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we've already replaced the asset by including toilets in the Q hub.
It's not like
this
for
is
like.
You're right, Councillor Brookow. The toilets in the Q hub are actually of a greater scale and they're better located, and they're actually there's more toilets available. The difference being that they weren't open 24 hours a day. So that could have been rectified, but by doing some research and some data, which we presented to you earlier. But unfortunately, the Hobson Street can only be considered as a new asset, an additional asset.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? No? Thank you. Thank you very much. Item 19, list of council meetings. We have the planning review if required on the 13th of July, and our next ordinary council meeting is on Wednesday, the 27th of July. Item 20, closed session of meeting in accordance with section 66(1) and 66(2)(a) of the Local Government Act 2020. The meeting be closed to the members of the public for the consideration of the following confidential items. We have one confidential item only tonight, which is item 20.1, the confirmation of the 25th of May 2022 confidential council meeting minutes. Thank you, and thank you to the members of the public joining us and those tuning in live or listening as a recording. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.